Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Ghost Protocol. Farden here. If you like our video, please leave a like and comment. Subscribe to stay connected with us, and we will continue to publish videos. Welcome back everyone, I am Farden. I hope you are all doing well and staying safe. Let's move on to a news story. I will read it out exactly as it has been written. Greetings Farden Pie, I am Sushanta Barman. I used to be a regular fan of Hoot FM while in the UAE, and now I am a regular fan of Ghost Protocol. Without further ado, let's get to the story. I work as a receptionist at a building for a company. This is a 6-story building comprising 144 apartments. I have been working in the same role here for a year. When I first arrived, the process of renting out apartments in the building was just beginning. At that time, only 30 units, spanning the 2nd through the 6th floors, had been rented out. There were no apartments on the ground floor. My job was to explain the details of the apartments to anyone who came to view them. I was briefed on the benefits, the payment details, and the procedure for handling issues on any floor. Specifically, that I had to file an incident report and email it to management. I was on night duty at the time. Since the building had just opened, there weren't many people around. It was mostly a matter of sitting and passing the time. The first week of my shift went very well. The trouble began in the 2nd week. While sitting at the reception, I heard a lot of commotion and shouting coming from the 1st floor. At first, I thought people from another floor were hanging out on the 1st floor since it was vacant. I was about to tell them that making such noise wasn't right, that it would disturb others. I went to the 1st floor and checked from one end to the other, but I didn't find anyone. Strangely enough, whenever I moved towards one side, I would hear the sound coming from the opposite end. Snoring. Sometimes it would happen that as soon as I opened a room and stepped inside, the sliding glass window would fly open with a loud bang. It sounded as if someone had jumped out the window and fallen to the ground. But when I rushed to the window, there was no one there. I also used to feel as though people were whispering around me. I didn't believe in the paranormal, so I didn't pay much attention to these things. One day, an Egyptian woman came and complained that Africans were not allowed in the building. Yet when I stepped out of my room, I saw a small African child who, upon seeing me, ran towards the stairs. Why don't you pay attention to these matters? I was astonished. Where would an African child come from here? Still, I told him we would look into the matter. 2 days later, a gentleman staying in room 615 on the 6th floor lodged a complaint. He reported a lot of quarreling coming from room 613, which was making it difficult for them to sleep. Upon hearing the complaint, I immediately headed towards that room. I could hear a lot of noise as soon as I stepped out of the elevator, but the moment I got close to the room, all the arguing stopped. I thought that they had gone quiet after hearing my arrival. I rang the calling bell. After waiting for 4 or 5 minutes, I saw that no one was opening the door. I got very angry and came downstairs. I thought that I would complain to the management. I was checking the computer to see whose name the room was in, but surprisingly there was no one in this room. It was an empty room. I went to the key box and saw that the key to this room was in the box. I decided to open the room to check to make sure. As soon as I opened the room with the key, a very hot wind pushed me out and I caught a faint, fishy odor. It was a 2 BHK unit, quite spacious. I looked around the entire place but found nothing. As I took the elevator down, I wondered how such a mistake could have happened. The person who lodged the complaint must have been certain. I too had heard the noise right up until I reached the room. The elevator arrived at the ground floor, but I noticed that quite some time had passed and the doors weren't opening. Thinking there might be a problem, I tried to open them from the inside. Just then, the lights inside the elevator went out and I realized the doors wouldn't open due to a power failure. I felt a twinge of fear, recalling a similar situation in another building, where I'd managed to pry the doors open by pushing against them with both hands. I tried to force the doors open now, but it was no use. That was when I felt someone's breath on the back of my neck. I couldn't summon the courage to turn around. My limbs were going numb. Sweat was trickling down my spine. A whispering sound reached my ears. I still remember it vividly. I kept hearing that same word over and over. He had spoken the word, though I was not uttering it myself. I didn't know what to do. It felt as if thousands of people around me were whispering that very word. A stench so foul assailed my nostrils. It defies description. I have no idea how long I stood there like that. Suddenly, the elevator doors opened. Stepping out, I saw that gentleman from the 6th floor sitting there. He asked me why I was sweating so profusely. It looked as though I had just taken a bath. I didn't let him realize the true situation. I told him not to make a sound and to go back to his room. I sat there for a long time wondering what had just happened to me. Was it merely a figment of my imagination? But how could a figment of the imagination be so vivid? My mind kept dwelling on that word. I felt as though I had heard it somewhere before. As I pondered, it suddenly struck me. I had heard that word in Africa. I had visited Benin, a small African country, back in 2020. The language of that country is French. The word I heard translates to "I am thirsty." I searched on Google to verify and found that to be correct. The mere thought of it makes me shudder. This sort of thing has been happening ever since. Broken glass on the sliding doors and windows is a common occurrence. There are many such incidents here that cannot all be described in a single email. Although I want to quit the job due to some personal issues, I am unable to do so. I sent you the video of the main door's glass being broken a while ago. Even after checking the CCTV footage, I couldn't find any logical explanation for it. With that, he concluded his story. I hope you enjoyed this account. If you did, please let us know. Thank you as well. We extend our best wishes to you for taking the time to write to us amidst the hectic pace of life abroad. Please accept our thanks and gratitude. We encourage others to write in too. Send your stories to our email address, ghostprotocol175@gmail.com. Now let us move on to our next story. Welcome back, everyone. I am Fardin, and I hope you are all doing well. I am going to share a new story with you now, reading it out exactly as it was written. Assalamu alaikum, Fardin Pai. I know you are always doing well, always among the good crowd. So I didn't feel the need to ask. I am also doing well, alhamdulillah. I couldn't listen to Ghost Protocol back then because I didn't have a phone. Since getting a phone, I have been listening to the series starting from the 5th episode and continuing up to the present. I hope you will continue to carry Ghost Protocol forward in this manner. Today's story is primarily about my wife. My home is in a village within the Newark area of America. I am withholding my identity for valid reasons I hope you will understand once you hear the story. I am 18 years old and a first semester student at Newark Polytechnic. My home is located at the outermost edge of a police station jurisdiction within the Newark district, while my wife lives in a different police station area within the same district. The distance between our homes is 5 kilometers. Without further ado, let's get back to the story. My name is Niloy, and my wife's name is Madison, though these are actually pseudonyms. This didn't happen very long ago. It was 8 months back. I've been married for 4 months now. 8 months ago, my wife was subjected to black magic. Let me start from the beginning. When we had been in a relationship for a year, Madison told me one day that she was experiencing severe pain in her stomach and chest. I dismissed it as nothing serious, thinking it was just an upset stomach that would clear up with some medication. It is worth mentioning that our parents were aware of our relationship, so let me get back to the story. Both I and her family initially treated the pain in Neela's abdomen and chest as something routine. However, after 15 days, her condition deteriorated significantly. She was admitted to a hospital in a neighboring village. Upon visiting the hospital, I learned what had transpired over those 2 weeks. Her mother told me that she had been behaving rudely with everyone, staying indoors all day, and occasionally failing to recognize people. In the dialect of our village, this is called upora ota, a sudden trance-like seizure. It involves a state where the person loses awareness for 5 to 10 minutes, behaving strangely and flailing their limbs. Sometimes they might cry out, "Let me go! Why are you holding me?" Then, after 5 minutes pass, everything returns to normal. When I arrived at the hospital, I found the person in the midst of such an episode. Fortunately, an elderly man was present. He recited a prayer over a glass of water, and that water was sprinkled on the person. A short while later, she recovered. Upon regaining her composure, she looked at me and asked, "Niloy, when did you arrive? Why are you standing there? Sit down." Curious, I gazed at Neela's face. I sat down without saying a word. Then she was put on an IV drip. I returned home that night. At that time, although her family knew about our relationship, no one in my family was aware of it. 3 days passed like this, and I was busy with some work at home. You might have heard that betel leaf is cultivated in Rajshahi. We have a betel leaf plantation, and I was working there. Just then, I received a call from Neela's mother. She told me Neela's condition was critical and that I needed to go there immediately. I rushed over without finishing my work. Upon arrival, I found her unconscious, receiving IV fluids and oxygen. I spent that night on the hospital veranda. I had told my mother I was visiting a friend's house. Seeing her condition, she was brought to New Ward the following evening. I stayed with her after she was moved there. Seeing a loved one in such a state, I simply couldn't bear to leave her alone. Meanwhile, my family back home knew nothing about the situation. That night, Mom called to ask where I was. I told her I was at a friend's place and wouldn't be coming home that night. Mom then called my friend and learned the whole story. Despite knowing everything, she didn't say a word to me. After taking Neela to a private hospital, we received the results of numerous tests. I was astonished. The reports were normal, yet the ultrasonography revealed a mysterious white object inside her abdomen. Why was she in such a state? My mind was racing with worry. She was lying there, asleep on the hospital bed. She gazes at me after suddenly waking up. Seeing my beloved in this state, I cannot hold back my tears. Then Neela asks, "Why are you crying?" "Nothing will happen to me. If you cry, I will become weak too." Wiping away my tears, I say, "I only pray to Allah that nothing happens to you." Saying this, I step outside. In the afternoon, Neela is brought home. Later that evening, she is taken to her aunt's house. A traditional healer, Kabiraj, living near her aunt's place, is summoned. Then I went home. Later at 8 o'clock that night, a traditional healer examined her and simply stated that black magic had been cast upon her. He could not say anything more than that. Nyla was given an amulet and some sanctified water, after which she fell asleep. I went to check on her once at 10 p.m. The next day, Neela was brought home, and that evening I took her to a renowned traditional healer. He placed a piece of paper with Arabic writing on it in Neela's hand and recited something. A short while later, Neela was seized by another fit and began thrashing about wildly. At one point, the Kabiraj attempted to summon a jinn he controlled, but the entity remained at a distance and could not approach. The Kabiraj explained that 3 months earlier, a young man from Neela's village had taken a liking to her and proposed a romantic relationship. However, since Neela was already in love with someone else, she declined. When the young man subsequently had his family send a formal marriage proposal to Neela's home, they too refused. Enraged by this rejection, the young man visited a Kabiraj and resorted to black magic. He somehow managed to feed her something, causing the effects of black magic to take hold of Neela. The Kabiraj then finished what he was saying and gave Neela an amulet along with some sanctified water. After receiving the amulet, Madison recovered. 2 months later, Madison and I got married. Currently, I am pursuing my studies at my home, and Madison is doing the same at hers. That is where the story ends. Having shared this account, he provided me with his full address and phone number, strictly for my own information, not for public disclosure. I didn't reveal it. Thank you very much for sending us your story. Thank you for staying with us. Best wishes to you all. Take care. We will be back with the next story. Welcome back. I am Farden, welcoming you all. I hope you are doing well. Moving on to a new story, one that truly embodies the spirit of a ghost protocol. I will read it out exactly as it was written. Dear Brother Farden, how are you? I hope you are well. I am Ethan, a professional graphic designer from Los Angeles. This story isn't about people, but rather about a statue. It is a true story that I heard from my grandmother about 43 years ago. At that time, my grandfather was the headmaster of the primary school in our village. This incident happened a long time ago, back when electricity had not yet reached rural areas. Most people relied on kerosene lamps or hurricane lanterns. My grandfather often returned home late from school. To help with this, his second son, my uncle, had sent him a flashlight from abroad which he used to light his way. On the day of this incident, he was once again returning home late. His path took him past an old banyan tree. During the day, the place felt strangely dark, with the air seeming to swirl and hang heavy. There were few villagers around. The entire village comprised perhaps only 200 people, and everyone knew one another. Anyway, as my grandfather approached that banyan tree, he was startled to spot two shadowy figure-like shapes moving in the darkness. He cautiously shone his light to see if anyone was there. Just moments before, he had heard a sound, but when he cast the beam, he found the spot empty. However, some banyan branches were swaying at the spot where the sound had originated. Nanajan called out, asking if anyone was there, but there was no response. Summoning some courage, he began to move forward. It is worth noting that Nanajan was a very brave man. After walking a short distance, his fear began to subside. Home was just a little further ahead, so he quickened his pace. Suddenly, he heard the sound of footsteps behind him. Someone seemed to be dragging their feet. Nanajan turned around and shone his torchlight behind him. A figure was approaching from a distance. My grandfather called out, "Who goes there?" There was no response. Then, startling my grandfather, the figure suddenly began rushing forward with the speed of the wind, as if it were flying. Terrified, my grandfather started to run. He suddenly noticed that the figure's eyes were gleaming in the darkness, much like those of a four-legged beast. Yet, needless to say, bears or similar wild animals did not simply wander onto the paths and roads like that. And what was truly astonishing was that the figure was advancing in the shape of a normal human being. Grandfather could bear it no longer. He broke into a frantic run. After sprinting a short distance, he felt something touch his back, the strike of a sharp object. Screaming, he ran even faster. Suddenly, the figure came up from behind and shoved him to the ground. That was the last thing he remembered before losing consciousness. The next day, he was rescued from a roadside paddy field. His back was covered in blood. Everyone helped bring him home. After being brought back, the village doctor administered first aid to my grandfather. Deep claw marks were visible on his back, wounds so severe that the flesh was torn open, exposing the tissue beneath. He was urgently admitted to the hospital. After 4 months, he managed to recover somewhat. A few days later, he gathered the villagers, went to that tree, and set it on fire. There were no further issues after that. That concludes the story. I hope you enjoyed it. Please do let me know if you did. Thank you all so much for watching until the end. I will see you again with a new story. Until then, take care of yourselves and your families. Goodbye.